Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time that you're watching this video. Once again, I'm back. My name is Richard Taylor. I am the author of 4 books, Brushes with Death, Wrongfully Accused, Rightfully Acquitted, Son of a Preacher Man, and my latest book, Blue Lights in My Rearview. Now, I'm doing these series of videos because I feel led to. I wrote this book last year in the wake of George Floyd and all the police brutality that we saw within the past 2 years. But recently, there has been something going on in my hometown of Goldsboro, North Carolina, which has sparked me to review this book and put some of the details that I wrote in the book on video so that people can see that there's a deep-rooted problem with the police and law enforcement here, and also the city officials here in Goldsboro, North Carolina. 2 events sparked this. One on December 31st, I was stopped by a sheriff deputy riding past the courthouse. Within 3 blocks, he had ran my tags and found some kind of violation. By the way, that violation did get dismissed, and that just lit the fire the way I was profiled like that. Within 3 blocks, I did nothing wrong, wasn't swerving, talking on the phone, drinking, or nothing. He just felt the need to come behind me, run my tags, and find a violation. That was one incident. Now, the second incident is more prominent. People know about the Southern Wayne High School the high school science teacher and baseball coach Anthony Williams, who was assaulted by the Wayne County Sheriff Department at a high school basketball game. That video is also online. You can go to WRAL.com or WITN.com and look up Southern Wayne High School baseball coach assaulted by the police. And there's a lot of people that have been defending that officer, saying Mr. Williams should have complied and things like that. But if you look at the video, you'll just see the immense brutality that and the immense aggression, I would say, that the officer showed towards this man who was a high school teacher, who has since been fired, lost his job, and now also they had criminal charges placed upon him. But nevertheless, though, that has given me this fire to release these series of videos about issues I talk about in my book, and also I have some more issues that I have not put in the book that also I'm going to show these videos about. But this video right here is just like the caption said. There is a video of 2 Wayne County Sheriff Department officers discussing the death of a man who they have at a traffic stop, discussing the death of a man who would die 1 year later in a quote-unquote police raid. So I'm going to talk about that later on. I'm going to talk about the actual case because I was so close to the case. I have several individuals who were close to the case. They gave me information. But this video shows 2 officers plotting the death of a man. And just a backstory, the man was killed on August 24th, 2012 in a quote-unquote drug raid. Now, at this point in time, I was very active within the city of Goldsboro with digging into, misconduct, corruption, misuse of funds, and things like that. So a close associate of the man, someone who was close to the safe, reached out to me after his death, about 3 or 4 months after his death, and said she wanted me to see something. So we got together, and she showed me this video. And at the time, she would not let me get my hands on this video because I was ready to send it to the governor, to the president, to whoever. But at that point in time, she was kind of afraid, and also she was dealing with the loss of the deceased Jamaican immigrant who was also her boyfriend at the time. Nevertheless, she did not let me get the video. But now, hopefully, I've been talking to a couple of my sources, and I've been able to possibly get that video. So we're going to show that video with you. I plan on doing like a little 2-part series about this case, but so much information has come out about this particular case that it's going to be, probably about a 5 or 6 part series with this case. But basically, stay in tune because we're going to get that video about this case. But nevertheless, a year earlier from this man being killed in a quote-unquote drug raid, this man was stopped by the police. There was 2 sheriff deputies and also a confidential informant. So they were following this man. He allegedly, and I say allegedly because he ended up defeating or beating this case, as we say. He was allegedly, trafficking in marijuana. But on this particular day, they had this man behind the car in handcuffs, and with this trunk open, and the police officers were in the car at this point. So this footage comes from the police officer's dash cam. So they were talking, and one officer said, "Well, yeah, I hope he runs, so that way we can just shoot him in the back and take the weed." And then one officer responded, "Well, shoot, we could just kill him now and say he tried to run and take the weed." Now, these once again, this is not something that I've heard from a friend of a friend who heard that they thought the officers may have said this. No, I watched these officers say this on videotape. They were openly discussing the death of a man like they were deciding what they're going to eat for lunch tomorrow. And at this point, you know, they're discussing that, and the confidential informant is in the back of the car identifying the man. Now, at that point, you know, the video, I don't even know what the rest of the video said. I didn't want to hear anymore. I'm like, let me get the tape. But unfortunately, she would not let me get the tape. And so, a few years or a few months went by, and this Jamaican immigrant hired a lawyer, and he was able to beat this case. And the reason he was able to beat the case because he hired a lawyer that was outside of the framework of North Carolina. I think he hired a lawyer from Wilson or Raleigh, and the reason that he was able to beat that case was because of this exact video that I'm talking about. So that's where I refer back to Mr. Anthony Williams. That's where I think he's done a very fabulous job of obtaining representation who is not from Wayne County. And I do want to give much respect and love to his attorney, Goldsboro native Rebecca Cannon, from Cannon Law Firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. She came in, she did a masterful job, a masterful presentation in speaking to the press, explaining these details and letting the law enforcement know that he has adequate representation, who is not connected to that quote-unquote good old boy network that exists in Goldsboro or Wayne County, North Carolina. And that's why this gentleman was able to beat his case, because he hired a lawyer who was not clicked in with the DA, the judges, the sheriff department chiefs and heads and things like that. So they are able to fight unbiasedly for their clients. So nevertheless, this guy, who the officers were blatantly discussing his death in the video stop, who later beat their charges, which adds fuel to the fire. They later killed him 1 year later in a quote-unquote drug raid with the aggressive crime enforcement unit. And I put emphasis on the word aggressive because that's, again, what we see in the videotape of Mr. Anthony Williams, who was assaulted once again by the sheriff department. The aggressive crime unit, that is it pretty much self-explanatory. They're very aggressive, and when you come dealing with the public with an aggressive mind state, that's exactly what we see in the video with Mr. Anthony Williams. So I'm going to talk about this case, but I just want to give you the backstory on this case, that there is a video out there with Wayne County law enforcement officers openly discussing the death of a man who would be killed 1 year later in a drug raid. And so they had wiretaps on this man, his friends, everybody who was involved there. They were following this man for quite some time, at least a year before the initial stop, but evidently they kept following him, and they ended up killing this man. And I have more information. Actually, the officer who killed him was actually transferred from another place because he was known to be violent and aggressive, and I think he had killed someone else. So, and that's another thing. When officers come in from different locations, they're normally transferred because of violations. And so we have this officer who comes in aggressively and kills this Jamaican immigrant in a quote-unquote drug raid after sheriff officials, and I'm not sure if it was even the same officer who killed them, were discussing his death on a tape. So I want to get back with you on this this particular instance, but you know, it's in brushes, it's in blue lights in my rear view. More incidents like this uncovering the police brutality, the police misconduct, and the police outright murder is in this book right here. And we're going to give you the insight. But once again, I want to praise once again the lawyer Rebecca Cannon for coming in here and not being afraid to address the issues at hand. I do want to pray for justice for my brother Anthony Williams. And because so many people are defending the officer and things like that, and talk about how much of a good person he is. Yeah, he may be a good person around you. He may be a good person in your atmosphere with him, but that doesn't make him a good person when you're not around. So I just thank y'all for listening. I thank everybody who's sharing these videos, because this is something that's deep rooted. And I have much more stories, even the ones that I did not put in the book, I'm going to be discussing. But stay tuned, because we're going to have that video for you, hopefully within the next couple of days. Might take us a couple of weeks, but we're going to get that video to show you the outright blatant and corruption and the miscarriage of justice that is prevalent here in Wayne County. Once again, I thank you, Richard Taylor. Go to my website, www.taylorhousepublishing.com, to find out more about any of my services or books. But I definitely want you guys to keep up with these videos, because there's going to be more information. But this video, there is a video of Wayne County Sheriff Department deputies discussing and plotting the murder of a man who was later killed 1 year later in a truck raid. Thank y'all for listening.